not only looks super good on your resume, I think that makes anyone immediately differentiated when applying to jobs and internships in the future. I think if I had done it back then maybe I would have even had a head start. I'm actually starting a new business, launching this summer. I'm starting with my partner. We're doing.
Welcome back to ComStreet Podcast. Today, we're super honored to be filming our last episode of the 2025-2026 school year. And we're joined today by a Sauder alum who specialized in finance and took a couple risks, a couple turns in her journey to now become an entrepreneur and created one of Metro Vancouver's favorite desserts. We're super honored to be joined by Linda, the owner of Little Pisces. So please welcome Linda to ComStreet.
Thank you.
Hey, so Linda, please introduce yourself to our guests, our audience.
Yeah, like you said, I'm Linda. I graduated from Sauder in 2019. Grew up in Vancouver. After I left Sauder, I did some consulting work and then worked in finance for a couple of years. And then 3 years ago, I left that lifestyle to start my own business, Little Pisces.
Okay, so I guess for a lot of our audience, we're kind of curious, like, why did you start Little Pisces? Could you tell us the story behind it? And what was the choice of the name Little Pisces?
Yeah. I mean, I think I wanted to really try entrepreneurship for myself. I think when I was in Sauder, I don't know if it's still this case, but back then people didn't really think too much about entrepreneurship. It's like, get into this accounting program, get into this consulting program or marketing program or whatever. And I think back then I really valued just fitting in and, doing what everyone else wanted to do. So entrepreneurship was never on my mind. But when I left Sauder or when I graduated from Sauder and I was working, I really felt that I wanted to try something new for myself. I wanted to take a bet on myself. And then I think when I was at my finance job, I was just working a lot. And then there was a moment where I just thought, if I'm going to be spending so much time working every week, I might as well try to work for myself. And I'm also at that time, I was, I think, 26. I was young enough to see what I could do. And worst case, I just, get back with my parents for a while.
Fair.
So I decided to do that. And then that's kind of what got me into starting my own business. In terms of Little Pisces and taiyaki, I've always really liked sweet stuff. I have a huge sweet tooth, and I also really enjoy eating taiyaki, especially in LA when there was a go-to place I would have taiyaki.
Right.
And there was a moment for me when I realized that Vancouver doesn't have a super obvious choice for go-to taiyaki snack. So I thought that this would be a really good option. There's a gap in the market, and Vancouver's also, the demographics pretty ripe for this concept. We're pretty diverse, a lot of foodies in the city. And so I thought that this would make a lot of sense. I also like the idea of making something that's tangible, space I can go into, selling something that I can see. That makes a lot more sense to me than something super techy because I didn't really work in tech at all in my life. And then Little Pisces, it's kind of a name that I came up with randomly when I was driving one day.
Okay.
But essentially I was trying to figure out a good name for a taiyaki concept. And I was born in March, so I'm also a Pisces. And Pisces look like the logo for the icon for the horoscope is two fish swimming side by side. So I thought that it would just make a lot of sense for our taiyaki concept as well. So that's kind of where it came from. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know there was like a personal connection with the name for Pisces.
Yeah.
Because I know like the Pisces, it looks like the little fish taiyaki. So I didn't know that at least you had like the personal connection there. But that's super cool.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned earlier that like you were in your finance career, you were in LA, right, for during that time.
Yeah.
And so was there like a specific moment that really made you realize that like I need to pivot, I need to try taking another risk? Like, was there a specific moment that you had in mind?
I think when I was around a year to year and a half in, I was in LA. My partner had moved down to LA to be with me. We got a dog. And I realized that I didn't really know many people in LA, and my weekends were not spent doing things I wanted to be doing. And I just realized that if I were to stay around, I was in private equity. If I were to stay around in private equity, things would probably only get busier.
Right.
And I just didn't see that as my lifestyle. I think I learned a lot from that job in particular, and I would not trade that for anything. But I just realized that I wanted to have more autonomy, more time freedom. I think that was also when everyone was working remotely and traveling while working. I was just stuck going to the office every day. So yeah, I just felt like it was going to be a good opportunity.
Fair enough. And because you graduated in 2019, so there was like you just went into COVID during the workforce. It was a big challenge there. But were there a lot of challenges in your journey, not only in the professional side, but also in your entrepreneurial side? And could you tell us a couple here that and how you walked through them?
Just general challenges.
Yeah, yeah.
I think when I pivoted from consulting to finance, that was a pretty different industry. Um, Finance is so much more. I think it's so much more hardcore. I think people think consulting is a lot of grinding already
Right.
in terms of the work style, but when I was in finance, it was really crazy. You don't really have weekends; it can get exploded at any point. I It's very deal driven as well. So I mean, to explain, so when I was in private equity, we were investing in businesses.
Right.
And when these businesses are for sale, we go through these processes. We call them deals. And at any given point, there's 5 to 20 private equity firms trying to get these deals. So the only way you can really differentiate, other than how much money you're going to pay for this business, uh, is is speed, right? Because you want to be the fastest to give them certainty that you're going to be buying this business or that you're the best partner for them. So basically what that means is that but for the team is that you're going to be working pretty hard to get things done as fast as possible.
Mhm.
And I think it was hard for me to adjust to that initially because I wasn't so used to in consulting. I think they respect your time a lot more,
Right.
and they will more or less guarantee you weekends off, most weekday nights as well. But in finance, I think that part was just a kind of like a mental adjustment I had to make. My time is no longer just my own. I have to. It's work first, and
Mhm.
everything else secondary. I think that was hard, uh, but I think it's really worth it. I think it's worth working hard for a year or two because I think that's now my limit. I knew that I could do that. So with everything with little Pisces, it hasn't been nearly
Right.
as bad, honestly. Um, so yeah, I think that was good. And then in terms of challenges with little Pisces, I think the toughest thing is to figure out why things are happening in certain ways, if that makes sense. When sales are good, why are they good? What am I doing well? And should I be doing more of it? And when sales are bad or not as good as we expect, what's going wrong? And I think when when you're looking at stocks to invest or when you work in a huge company, you have so much data and so much good software and analytics that you can reference to understand a bit better about why things are happening. But I realized with a really small business like ours, we are not super mature in terms of the data we collect, the software that we use. We also have real budget constraints as well.
Right.
So it can get really frustrating sometimes when, hey, like sales are down, but why is it down? Is it weather? Is it, I don't know, there's like Taylor Swift concert happening in Vancouver. So people aren't coming to our stores or what's going on exactly. And I think still trying to learn more about that data side because I think from my background, I really do like knowing what's going on, but I do understand that at the end of the day with a food business, there is going to be a lot more volatility and some days are good, some days are bad. Yeah, I think that's a challenge.
Fair. That's to jump from a such a data driven career and then all of a sudden to like a such a unknown career. Like I completely understand because my family also is in the food industry.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah. So we understand like the ups and downs. All of a sudden, oh, you might have a really busy Tuesday, even though like weekdays are the quietest. So completely understand.
What did family do?
We're in the Americanized Chinese business because I'm from Alberta.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have a big crowd for like I think we did authentic Chinese, so we did Americanized, and so we completely like, get it. Like we have our usual ups like through Fridays and the weekend, but then all of a sudden sometimes we get a big rush on Tuesdays, and we're like, is it a hockey game? Is it like is it a tour bus stopping on the middle in the middle of the road? So like we completely get it. And how do you navigate that change then all of a sudden from being so data driven to now being so uncertain in a lot of areas?
I think it's taken some time. I mean, I'm 3 years in now, so I've become really adjusted to this new lifestyle and this new work style. I I think at the beginning it was a lot of letting go because I came from a world where everything was tracked in spreadsheets on Excel, and I had these really detailed, when we were looking at stores to rent out, I had this really detailed tracker with location, demographics, everything I can pull on the internet.
Right.
And then I realized after a while that this was way too detailed for what I needed. Wasn't the best use of my time. So I think I started noticing here and there areas where I can kind of cut down and adjust what I should do to what I'm actually trying to achieve with this business.
Right.
And then I think other times it's just realizing that I think the other good thing, I guess, is with this job, being a small business owner, my brain isn't just in analytics most of the time. It's actually probably where I'm spending 5% of my time. It could probably be more, but because we're so lean as a team, I have to kind of have my hands a little bit everywhere.
Mhm.
It's getting better as we grow our team, but yeah, I think when you don't have enough time to focus so much on one aspect, then you're also okay with being like, okay, it's okay if I don't know this, 100%, as long as
Mhm.
you know it 80%, and I can make the right decisions from that. Then I'm satisfied at that point.
Right, right. So you become a more well-rounded person overall. Like you
I
think
think
you
so.
think so, right? Right? You touched
Yeah.
on like, oh, maybe like in the food prep area, you've now got the, like ideation with customer service. So everything's been a bit like more well-rounded, you think?
Yeah, I mean, definitely some areas more than others. Like I started posting on social media, which I'd never done before starting this. So I mean, I've learned a lot more about design and content and all that kind of stuff. I think it forces you to learn new things, and I think it's also nice because in my old jobs, I couldn't tap into that creative side,
Mhm.
and actually really enjoy marketing. I've realized I enjoy design work. So yeah, so I think it's been fun.
Yeah, because I see that you guys have merch as well. So like
Yeah.
makes total sense that you guys have been tapping in. It looks good. So I will say like
Thank you.
we will link the social media in our post later down the line. And then the next question that we had was actually like about motivations because we know it's like with small businesses it's quite hard
Mhm.
sometimes to stay motivated when there's so many unknowns. There feels like there's so many barriers, especially knowing in Metro Vancouver there's a lot of competition.
Mhm.
So what motivated you to continue moving forward and actually open a second location in Richmond?
Yeah. I think the answer is two things. I think the first is that once I quit my job, I knew that this is my only option. I had to keep going forward. So I think that's what got me from zero to having my first store.
Hmm.
And then I think from first to second store, a lot of it was actually being able to see the success or relative success of my first store. It's a nice, you see the benefits of what you're doing a lot more quickly that way. And I think that gives me more motivation to just keep going. So yeah, I think if the first store didn't do that well, then maybe I'd be like, I don't know if entrepreneurship is for me necessarily, but because the first store did decently well, it gave us enough conviction to open on the second store. So yeah, we'll see how long that keeps going.
I mean, I'm excited for potentially the third store if you guys continue to expand. I think
Mhm,
you guys have a lot of potential, especially as you mentioned earlier. There is that gap in the market,
mhm.
so super excited to see if you guys have a third store. And I guess like the last question for Low Pisces specifically is like, what was your favorite part about starting Low Pisces and leading your own team, being the leader of your own business? Any favorite parts?
I'd say the most rewarding part is taking that leap from being the person to at the lowest end of the totem pole,
Mhm.
doing all the research, putting the materials together and presenting and not having any decision making power or very little decision making power. I kind of went from that at my last role to being the person pretty much at the top. And I, or my business partner, have final say when it comes to a lot really crazy decisions like where do we invest a lot of money in, who do we hire, all that kind of stuff. And I that to me has been really really cool to know that I went from someone who I think they say that you have a voice, but to some extent, their voice, they also are a lot more wise, right? So they also know, like my seniors back then, they would know better about these certain decisions or how to do things. And I think back then, I just thought that I should just follow this trajectory and I should defer to other people because they know better. And I'm sure they did most of the time. But it was cool to me to go from this person who mostly listened to orders and listened to what other people thought to someone who has to tell people what to do and what I think is right. I think that has been a really cool transformation for me over the last 3 years.
Right. So you went from this, I guess, the follower to now the decision maker,
Yeah.
and so that was the transition that you liked the most.
Yeah, I think that's where I've evolved the most, I guess.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. And then so regarding your decision then, because you went to school in Vancouver, you worked in Toronto, worked in LA, and so there's a couple locations that you tried out in your life. Like, what was the reason you chose to open your stores in Vancouver?
Mhm. Honestly, it was I think 80% pure business
Okay.
driven and 20% personal. The business is that, like I mentioned, there's gap in the market that I identified in Vancouver for attacking and software concepts. So to me, that just made it was no brainer. I should just open it here. I think the personal reason was, I guess it's also kind of business related, but I know a lot more people here. My parents are here, my business partners' families here as well, and we can just get so much more support from this area. Oh, sorry, by being in this area versus if I was out in LA. It would be a lot more complicated too with the visa and setting up a business where, I'm not a citizen. So yeah, for a lot of reasons.
That makes sense. And was there a moment where you wanted to do it between like Vancouver and Toronto? Because if like the visa took out the US, was there a Canadian choice?
I think Vancouver still made the most sense to me. I mean, I spent a few years in Toronto, but I don't understand it as intimately well as I do Vancouver. And yeah, for example, like I can store random stuff in my parents' garage. I wouldn't be able to do that in Toronto. So Vancouver made a lot of sense from that perspective. But I mean, Toronto would hopefully be a dream expansion city for us in the future too.
Okay, so hopefully we'll see a little Pisces sooner in Toronto then.
Yeah.
And then from the transition from the like full corporate like consulting and finance roles, and you mentioned earlier that you tried to rely on data as much as possible when you were looking into expanding and like operating Little Pisces. Were there any other skills or experiences from your consulting and finance jobs that you try to implement here?
I think from my consulting job, it's a lot of just I was working on consulting at Deloitte, and a lot of times you're kind of thinking about these big problems and trying to figure out how to distill them down to what are the key outcomes you're trying to achieve. So one framework that I like to apply with Little Pisces or entrepreneurship in general is, instead of trying to figure out the process and exactly what that needs to look like, I try to design for the outcome instead. So for example, I don't know, our store is a bit messier than usual. My outcome should be, I want the store to be cleaner. Let's figure out the best way to get there versus I want to make sure my team is sweeping every 2 hours or something, right?
Right.
I think that outcome-oriented thinking has been something that was taught to me in consulting, and that's what I take with that. And then with finance, I think honestly, just having really, really high standards. When I was in finance, I had to make sure that everything was not just B plus, A quality, it had to be like really A plus plus. So I apply that with a lot of the work I create and a lot of what I try to get my team to do. That's really important to me.
Right. Okay. And were there anything that you thought school taught you that was helpful? Because I guess like most of us are still in Sauder, we're still as university students. So was there anything that you thought university helped you with?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first one that comes to mind is just knowing a lot of people and being a good networker. I see a lot of people who maybe don't graduate from business backgrounds, if they're a bit more shy, not in this environment in Sauder where you're kind of forced to join clubs and talk to people and network.
Right.
And I can definitely see that affecting people that are just naturally a bit more introverted. And I think even though I would think I'm also an introvert, I definitely try to be a lot more just connecting with other business owners around Vancouver. That's been really helpful. Or just being generally like a nice person and building good relationships with other suppliers as well. That's something that I think business school has definitely taught me well in. Yeah, and I'm sure all the courses are still somewhere back there in my brain.
Still gonna say it's like, oh, they're still useful. Keep up with classes.
Yeah.
I mean, that, I guess is encouragement for our students. Get involved. Get your foot out there. Try stuff.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing for me because I was part of a lot of not that many, but I was part of JDC West and a lot of other clubs that I can't remember anymore. But yeah, I think that's what changed the school experience for me, which was getting involved with clubs, because that's where you build the closest friendships, and it's also a good way to kind of find a niche of like what you want to do and learn that niche.
Right. And so was JDC like and consulting that niche then that you thought was like your perfect area in uni?
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, it was fun.
Okay, so again, for our listeners and our audience, we're encouraging you to apply this stuff because a lot of us are in the CU West here. So keep going. Okay, so the next question that we wanted to ask was actually related to like the future. I know like a lot of us always get asked like, where do you see yourself in the next like 5 years? So like, where do you see yourself and Little Pisces in the next like 3 to 5? Let's give a little range.
Yeah, 3 to 5 that's a long time. I think at that point, I would love to have Little Pisces be less of a small business and more of a good medium-sized business that has uh, a good number of management people, maybe even in a small office for everyone. That would be really cool. But basically, my initial intent with Little Pisces was to be able to make this a good passive investment for me over time. Right now, it's definitely not passive, but I would hope that in the next 3 to 5 years, we can build enough people underneath us to really make this a really well-run organization. I think that's what's ahead of us for the next couple of years. We'd love to, keep growing our presence around Canada. I Yeah, I think that's for Little Pisces. I think for me personally, I would love to try out a couple other new projects. I'm actually starting a new business, launching this summer.
Oh,
I'm starting with my partner. We're doing a photo booth, a Korean. It's in Loki actually. We're
oh,
doing Korean photo booth. Uh, yeah, we got the lease already, so we're going through the renovation phase right now,
right.
and that's been really fun as well to just kind of do something completely different.
Wow.
So yeah, I hope to collect a couple other businesses along the way.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's what I really enjoy about entrepreneurship. I really enjoy the building part in particular, where you go from 0 to 1. The scaling part is still really rewarding, but it's definitely a different skill set that you need.
Right.
Yes, I hope to keep just experimenting on anything.
Wow. No, honestly, I think the Korean photo booth makes a lot of sense, especially in Metro Vancouver with such a big demand for it. So hopefully our audience members around Lougheed could go to that location soon. Is there an opening date in mind?
We want to open in July.
In July. Okay, okay, perfect for the summertime.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
We're excited about this one because it's not just your typical Korean photo booth. We bought this vending machine. It's getting shipped over right now, but we're gonna put DIY kits inside so that not only can you take photos, but you can self-serve with the vending machine, and then there's a big table or decently big table where you can do some DIY experiences and crafty stuff. And I think it'd be a lot of fun because a lot of people like to take photos, but then it just kind of gets slotted somewhere.
Right.
Versus with our concept, it's photos plus make it a bit more than that. Yeah.
Right, right. It takes a unique memory and continues to make it more unique
Yeah.
with their own arts and crafts and your own creativity. So love that idea. And then so with Little Pisces then, or is there anything that you want to try with the brand that you haven't tried yet? Any potential additions to the brand or the menu even?
With our Vancouver location, our third location coming up, we're trying to expand the menu a little bit more. I don't know when this is getting released. It'll probably be known by then, but we're trying to add coffee to
Oh,
the menu, and we're also going to add breakfast taiyakis as well. So we'll be open from morning onwards. And then the plan is to set up the coffee concepts as a new brand.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's gonna be related to Little Pisces for sure, but because we wanna reposition ourselves, we think it's easier to set up a new brand under Little Pisces versus reposition Little Pisces from a dessert brand,
Hmm,
a late night dessert brand into an all-day cafe concept.
right.
So the idea is to set up a sub-brand and then have that be in addition to our flagship store in Vancouver at least.
Oh, okay. And then so are the breakfast taiyakis gonna be like savory?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, good amount of them, yeah.
okay, okay. Gotta keep an eye out. I'm now excited. I want to try this too.
Yeah, they're really good.
And this is so the third location, like, can you tell us a little bit about where it's gonna be in Vancouver?
Olympic Village.
Olympic Village. So it's close to a couple of okay, okay. So we're the audience around the room is gonna be quite happy about that. And then so this one's a little bit about your own reflection then. So now that you've gone through so many changes, now you're hoping to expand Little Pisces and expand to a different side of business. How have you changed? How have you grown, do you think, from all this?
Great question. I've become more decisive
Mm,
for sure. Uh, when I was in my early mid-20s, I wanted to be that lukewarm person where I can flow either way or go either way. But I think just 3 years into building my own business where I have to make a lot of decisions, I learned to trust my gut a lot more. So I've definitely become more decisive. I think I've also gotten more I think I've I think tired is not the right word, but I've definitely realized that starting a business is hard. And even with, I thought that choosing a food concept would be the easiest out of everything, but it turns out that and I really believe this, no matter if you're starting I don't know, like a huge tech business in the software space or AI space, or if you're starting a tiny food cart, it's really challenging no matter what. It's not just about the stuff that it takes to get there. It's more about the emotional toll it that comes with being an entrepreneur. And I think that's pretty much constant no matter what type of business you're building. So yeah, I definitely feel like I've been in doing this for a few years. So I want to prioritize, more of my work-life balance side. And that was actually why, I started this whole thing. And I do have good work-life balance, especially compared to before. But I think I should probably keep that more in mind as I continue along this path. Yeah.
Okay. And then if you could go back to your younger self, either that be when you're just starting out low Pisces or even like when you're just graduating uni, what is something that you would tell your younger self or maybe tell them to do differently?
Mm, I would have loved to try starting my own business back in university. I think that there's so many businesses that you can start with pretty much zero money. And having those experiences not only is looks super good on your resume, I think that makes anyone immediately differentiated when applying to jobs and internships in the future. But I just think probably learned so much. I think if I had done it back then maybe I would have even had a head start. Maybe I would have even had to go to consulting and finance to unpack in entrepreneurship. I had a couple of friends who were entrepreneurs back at UBC, and that could have been maybe another path. And I think the other thing would probably be this is probably super cliche, but just to enjoy it a lot more. I think when you're in school, you're just in this environment where you are forced to talk to people, meet people. I think once you're out in the real world or whatever, it gets harder to have those organic connections. And there's just so much more that goes on. So I think just enjoying those days and trying to make the most of them.
Right, right. And that kind of perfectly wraps up our like questions into our final one. What is one piece of advice you would tell students right now then? Like, do you want them to start their own businesses? Do you want them to enjoy it more?
I I mean, I don't think starting your own business is for everyone. So I don't think that would be my universal advice. But I would say no matter what you're interested in, or even if you're not interested in anything, I would say just go get out there and just try different things, whether it's a new hobby like pottery or uh, a new running or a run club or whatever. I think just going out there and trying to gain more experiences intentionally is really important. And yeah, just try to do something different. I mean, 4 or 5 years at school is a long time. So there's a lot of different things you can pick up along the way. I think that would make the university experience a lot more fun.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I didn't think I was going to do a help with a podcast in my uni career, but I think for all of our students, take those risks, try something new. It doesn't hurt. It's especially during these times where you're expected to take a lot of risks, right? So it's probably the best time for us to try that. So Linda, thank you so much for joining us on Com Street. Thank you, our listeners, for actually joining us today as well. We're super honored to have you on and super honored to have you as our last guest for the year. Hoping to see the third location and the photo booth come up soon so we're able to explore and just try them out. But thank you again so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.